Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric Nerding series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance the work in progress Atari Jaguar core, because I want to talk about today just how far this core has come in the last 2.5 to 3 months, because basically in summer to fall of last year, the Atari Jaguar core was something that existed, but basically no one would play it, because it would only boot a few games, it would have a lot of glitches, and would freeze all the time. Today that's 100% not the case. We're going to walk you through Raiden here, or Raiden depending on how you want to pronounce it, originally developed by Cebu and then ported over to the Jaguar. And while this might not be the quote-unquote best port of the game ever made and does have some changes compared to the arcade original, it is one of Atari Jaguar's best games. We're going to be talking about the core's performance today. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. What you're seeing right now is Raiden running on the most recent Atari Jaguar core, and it seems to be running near to perfect to original hardware. Now do be aware this is a dual RAM core. You're going to need to have two different RAM sticks in your MiSTer FPGA to run this. The first one should be 128 megabytes, and the second one can be any size you want. And if you are going to upgrade, I just recommend going dual 128s just to future-proof it just in case. But what you see here is just Raiden being played, and that is the reality of the new Jaguar core and all of the updates. You can sit down, just pop this ROM in, and play it like you were playing an original Atari Jaguar, which is absolutely outstanding and so much progress considering where this core was last year. The last time I even tried to boot Raiden up to play it, maybe summer to fall of 2024, it wouldn't even play on my MiSTer FPGA. It would basically just sit there doing nothing. So this is an absolutely outstanding progression to see on screen here. The best part is too, real Atari Jaguar hardware, for some strange reason, is just absolutely growing in value on eBay and on the secondary market. If you want to buy a loose Atari Jaguar today, you're looking at $300 to $400 with a controller and just an RF adapter in the back. And I'm really not sure how the Atari Jaguar has become such an expensive console and the games have held their value so well, because it really isn't the best console out there. But MiSTer FPGA is giving you the best version of it, even if the core isn't complete, because obviously we have HDMI out here, which is something that you can't easily do on the Jaguar, and if you do want to get RGB out, you need to buy new leads for the back of your console as well. And I would say from the color accuracy here to the overall playability, this is an excellent version of Raiden, and it's coming across so well in FPGA. And that's all you ever want out of an FPGA core, and it should be the gold standard test against original hardware. If you can't tell which version you're playing, an FPGA core or an actual original console with the cartridge inserted inside, then we are good as gold as far as the performance is concerned. And that is very close to what we're getting here in Raiden. I really haven't noticed any visual glitches whatsoever. The sound has been good. The response and latency in the controls is exactly what I would expect it to be. It is just a fully playable version of Raiden from start to finish, and I have seen the credits scroll on this one, so I can tell you can sit down today and just play it till the end however you want. And that again is just such a massive improvement compared to where this core was like 3 to 4 months ago. People thought the Atari core was basically abandoned. It really didn't do much of anything. Last time I did a preview before the most recent cores, I showed you footage from like 3 games that I could get running, and all of them had terrible graphical corruption and poor performance. It would tend to freeze all the time. Now the large majority of the Atari Jaguar library boots in the core and is playable. There's still a few games that are giving some people hell, Alien vs Predator and Fight for Life being the two that sometimes just display sound but will not give you any actual picture on the screen, but that is still being worked on by the core devs, and I'm sure that will be patched up soon. And that is just such an impressive feat, because while the Atari Jaguar isn't the most complex piece of hardware out there, it is still a very interesting platform with custom bespoke silicon, and those chips actually have some bugs inside of them from the engineering and manufacturing progress, and that's something that's got to come across in the core as well. I'm not going to get too deep into the hardware bugs on Jaguar, but they are well known and actually hamper the console's performance at retail when developers had to work around those issues. And as far as the sound recreation of the Atari Jaguar is concerned, it seems pretty accurate to my ear, but go ahead and listen for 45 seconds or so, get a sense of the audio, how it sounds, and I'll be right back to talk about it more. Pretty much sounds exactly like an Atari Jaguar should sound, but you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think. And I've heard this soundtrack in so many different versions, including the Atari Jaguar, so I'm pretty well familiar with it, and I can't really hear anything that I'm having any issues with. The same thing goes in all of the graphics. Take a look at the sprites, the background layers, the heads-up display on the right-hand side of the screen, all of the different scrolling on the playfield. I don't see anything whatsoever that makes me think this is doing anything other than what a real Atari Jaguar would. There really aren't any glitches whatsoever. All of the sprite priority layers are intact. It is just doing everything you would expect if you just wanted to sit down and play Raiden. And again, that is nothing short of an amazing feat, because the Tom and Jerry chips on the Atari Jaguar are custom. That means you do need to basically reverse engineer them, or in this instance, recreate them via netlists that have been available. And the interesting thing is Hasbro owns the rights to the Atari Jaguar, and they open source basically everything like 15 years ago or so. So the entirety of the Atari Jaguar hardware, as well as all the development kits software-wise, are in the public domain, and you can do anything you want with Jaguar. Unfortunately, if you do go through some of the SDK docs from Atari, there is a long list of hardware bugs in there, labeled level priority 1, 2, and 3, and some of them can actually hamper the performance of the actual Atari Jaguar console. It was just one of those things. They ended up shipping the product with some bugs, and the Atari Jaguar could have been more impressive visually and on paper had those bugs not existed. But of course, this is a MiSTer FPGA recreation, so those hardware bugs are going to come across as software code so that it adheres to the original console spec. But as you see here, take a look at the shadows on all of the ships, everything else moving around, everything just looks exactly like you would expect. The placement of those shadows being slightly offset, like the light source is coming in from the left-hand side of the screen. All of the bullets, all of the projectiles, all the explosions, their sprite work seems to be rendering perfectly, as well as all of these different power-ups you see on screen. And again, I can't stress enough just how much of an improvement this is, because for the longest time, Raiden was a game that you couldn't even boot onto the core, and everyone thought that the Atari Jaguar is basically dead in the water. But now in 2024 and into 2025, it shows so many more signs of life, and that is exciting because we're really running out of consoles for MiSTer FPGA. After this, you can see stuff for Virtual Boy, 3DO, maybe PCFX as well. But as far as consoles this generation are concerned, and consoles in general, MiSTer is about ready to be the encyclopedic resource for cores, and that is just great. And it's not like we don't have software emulation that's incredible as well. Rich Whitehouse and Big P Emu absolutely kill it when it comes to software emulation for Jaguar, and it is an amazing resource. But honestly, having an FPGA core to go alongside it is going to be a very fun time, because again, unless you're a hardcore Atari collector, buying an original console as well as the games or a flash cart and trying to get them all into your television with good video signal out is going to be a very expensive endeavor, probably at the minimum $750, and I honestly don't think Jaguar or any other console MiSTer FPGA runs is going to be worth that. There's so many different ways you can spend your money. When MiSTer FPGA gives you this good a performance and under $200 or less, you really can't argue what you're seeing on screen. But one more soundtrack sample for everyone, because not only does Raiden have an amazing soundtrack, but it sounds completely perfect coming out of my MiSTer FPGA as well. 30 seconds, I'll be right back to talk a little bit more about the core though. Sounds good to me, including those bassy, chunky explosions you hear. Then I did listen to the audio in Big PMU as well, just to get an idea of how close they were. And honestly, I couldn't hear any difference whatsoever if I was on the MiSTer FPGA core, if I was using software emulation for this as well. But if you're a huge Raiden fan or a huge Atari Jaguar fan, leave me a comment down below and you tell me, is there anything you've seen or heard in this video that makes you think it's anything other than a perfectly performing Atari Jaguar core running Raiden? And do be aware that this perfect performance, at least in my opinion, is not going to extend across every single game on the core right now. There are still bugs and glitches in the core. It is still in active development, so not every single Atari Jaguar title is going to run as well as Raiden does. But honestly, the fact that we're to this point in and of itself is an absolute achievement, and I can't wait to see how much more this core updates, because we're going to have a fully finished Atari Jaguar core on MiSTer FPGA before you realize it. But leave me a comment down below, tell me what your favorite Jaguar game is, and if you want to see another long-term test of the core. But short of that, we're done. Go play some Jaguar, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.